Hey guys, it's Chris from Highline Guitars and you're watching another episode from the Luthier's Workbench. This episode, I believe this is episode 97, but it marks my return to building guitars. As you know, in the last several episodes that I've done, I was talking about my Highline CNC routing machine that I have been building. And last episode, I had finished the assembly, the testing, and was actually starting to use the machine to build the guitars that I'm working on. And I'm not going to really be giving many more updates on it, as the machine is done, it's working, and I'm pretty happy with it. So, in fact, I use the machine to build a guitar that I'm currently working on, and that's what I want to talk about in this episode. Okay, so the guitar that I'm currently working on is one of my double cutaway Apollyon guitars. And what I did was I wanted to try out a couple of ideas. And the idea that I had is based on the desire to make a guitar body out of the hardest hardwoods that I can find. I've always wanted to make guitar bodies out of really exotic hardwoods like rosewood and babinga. And there's a whole mess of other hardwoods out there that would be great for making a guitar body. The only problem is when you make guitars, solid body electric guitars out of those kind of woods, you end up with a really heavy body. And the only alternative is to chamber those bodies to reduce the weight. So what you have to do is you have to cut a base body, route the chambers, and then put a cap on top of it. And that's certainly one way of doing it, but typically when I'm making a guitar body, I have to first of all prepare the blank. When I make a guitar body blank, I typically will start out with a board that is 36 inches long, 7 inches wide, and about 2 inches thick, or as they say in the industry, 8/4. And I'll cut that board in half so that I have two 7-inch wide by 18-inch long boards. And then I'll run one edge over the blades of my joiner, and I'll glue those edges together to create a blank. Now this blank here is mahogany, and it's actually been planed down just below that 2-inch thickness for the guitar that I'll be building from this blank. But I wanted to make, as I said, guitar body out of the hardest hardwoods. So the problem is when you're shopping for those kind of boards suitable, it's very difficult to find exotic hardwoods in 8/4 thickness. They're out there, but it can be a real challenge to find a selection to choose from to make a guitar body blank. However, there's plenty of 4/4 boards, and 4/4 is actually just under an inch in thickness. So my idea was I could get a 72-inch long board, cut that in half, and then take each of those halves and cut them again in half, glue those boards together 2 at a time, and I would have 2 blanks that are 18 inches long, 14 inches wide, and just under an inch thick. And then I could sandwich those two, laminate them together to make the full thickness body. That seems like a lot of work, but there's an advantage to doing this. Well, there's a couple of advantages. Number one, the cost. I can purchase 4/4 wood at a cheaper price than I can 8/4 wood, and the selection is so much greater that I can actually pick and choose the perfect board for my project. The other advantage is with the two, it's basically an upper half and a lower half, I can actually route chambers for reducing the weight into both the upper and lower half, and then make the two together for the finished guitar body. And that's what I did for this project. What I did was I cut a lower half and then an upper half, And those halves were both chambered. You can't see it, but they're in there. And then I glued the two together, sanded everything smooth, and what I've done here is I've painted it white. Now this particular body is made out of maple because I wanted to try this idea first, and I can get maple cheap. In fact, this blank total cost me about $25. So it's a good way to test it out and see if this idea is actually going to work. And so far, you know, I've got a body that weighs about 4 pounds, which is the target weight that I like to hit for my guitar bodies. I don't like to go below 4 pounds because I find that when you do that, especially if you're using a hard maple and like a rosewood or ebony fretboard, once you get the tuners on, the fret wire in, and the guitar finished, you end up with neck dive. You want the body to balance the weight of the neck so that when you're standing on stage, the guitar doesn't, you know, the headstock isn't going to drop and hit the stage and break. So I like to keep the body at around 4 pounds, and that's where I'm at with this one. Now what I've also done is, as you can see, is I painted it the white color. I've sprayed it, and the reason for that is I want the back to be white, but what I'm going to do on the top is I'm going to transfer a graphic onto the entire top surface of the guitar body. And I hope to show that process in a future episode. But what I've done is I've designed a graphic which is a collage of vintage science fiction movie posters and magazine and book covers. And I'm going to apply that. The way I'll do it is I'm going to print it out in reverse on an inkjet printer, and then I'm going to apply gel medium across the entire surface, and then I'll lay the graphic ink side down and then let that gel medium dry, and then I can peel off the paper and the graphic will remain on the surface. So that's kind of the plan for how this guitar is going to look. It's really kind of a test of different ideas that I've got going on. And once that's done, I'll then spray my probably a water-based polyurethane over the top to protect it and to seal it in. So we'll see how that turns out. This is the control cavity cover, which will fit in here. And I'm going to put, I'm thinking of that old Jane Fonda movie, Barbarella. I'm thinking about putting a graphic on the control cavity cover for the back of this. So we'll see how that turns out. And I may even do pickup covers, which will have the graphic on it. I haven't decided yet. That's sort of the beauty of projects like this, is it's sort of a, let's see how it goes and where it ends up. I may end up stripping the graphic off completely if I don't like it, who knows. And the neck is flamed maple with a Purple Heart fretboard. And then I did my Highline Custom Guitars logo. It was cut on my CNC machine and then inlaid with, I took white Timbermate and I mixed it with purple and a little bit of red water-based acrylic craft paint until I got the color I wanted, and then just packed it in, let it dry, and then sanded off the excess. So what I'll do is I'll drizzle a little bit of water-thin CA glue over that to seal it, and then I'm going to, I still have to do the side dots on the fretboard, and then once that's done and everything is final sanded, is I will apply my my favorite neck finishing varnish, which is a mixture. It's 2 parts boiled linseed oil, 1 part oil-based polyurethane, and then a little drizzle of mineral spirits to thin it out so it will soak in. And that makes the flame pop out really nicely. It deepens and enriches the color of the Purple Heart and seals the wood so that it won't be affected by moisture. So, and then at that point, I should be ready to do the final assembly of the guitar. And now I know one question has popped up I think it was either on Facebook on my Highline Guitars page, or it may have been in an earlier video. Somebody had asked, with all this maple, you know, a maple body and a maple neck, what kind of tone am I after? A really bright tone? And because I wind my own pickups, I can make the tone whatever I want it to be. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with my gut instincts. I know that all this maple would likely produce a guitar that's going to have a very bright tone. So if I want to bring that down and balance it out with more bass and mid-range, what I'll probably do is I'll wind the pickups and I'll select a magnet that I think is going to produce that more balanced tone, and then I'll test the guitar, and if it isn't quite right, I can pull the pickups out and I can either replace the magnet or I can rewind them, or do both, to bring the tone down to where I want it to be. And there's a variety of different pickup winders tricks that I can employ to get the tone exactly what I want. So that's why I don't worry so much about wood selection. Wood, yeah, it does, in my opinion, have some effect on tone, but what really matters the most is how the pickups are designed. And I can tailor the specifications of the pickups to generate the kind of tone that I want, no matter what the guitar is made out of. So that's what I have on the workbench this week, and hopefully next week I'll be able to show more progress on this guitar, and specifically how I apply the graphics to the front of this guitar. So that should be pretty interesting. Until then, take care, and we'll see you soon.